This is part two of a video that I made on the false belief that causes us so much harm that feeling feelings, sharing vulnerability is weakness. And after recording that first video, I had some more thoughts come to mind, and I compiled them here into this part two. So I suggest watching part one first and coming back here. Thanks for watching. Hey, I just want to interject one other component here. I really want to emphasize the degree to which this is not just a you problem, it's a problem with our dominant culture. So, I talked about all of us being indoctrinated in certain beliefs and values from the culture that we were raised in. And I want to name that, especially if you're a guy, but really this applies to all of us, you were probably taught growing up that it's weak to be too much in your feelings, and that, you know, what strength looks like is in being able to care for yourself and not rely on others, right? And so I think this is really, first of all, I want to offer you a lot of empathy, right? Because there's a reason why you're worried about appearing weak, right? You didn't just make this up. This worry is not coming from nowhere, right? You've seen this in so many movies and TV shows and books. So many of these kind of strong men have been modeled for you as like, this is what a good man looks like. And again, even if you identify with a different gender identity, you might still feel like, I have to be strong, because you've seen that modeled in certain ways in media, or you've been taught that by your parents or your teachers or coaches or whatever. And so, again, I really want to validate that this concern is real. It is scary, right? And again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of this video, what is weakness? What is strength? I think if strength is really courage, is doing the hard thing, is fighting the difficult opponent, then I think one of the strongest things that we can do is notice the cultural programming that we've received, noticing the indoctrination that we've received, and asking, is that actually serving me? Is that helping me? Is this belief that I'm not allowed to talk about my feelings, that I'm not allowed to be vulnerable, that I'm not allowed to ask for help, is that serving me? Is that making my life better? Or is that just what my society around me has tried to mold me into, right? And so I think real strength is saying, well, hold on. Actually, if I ask for help and I receive help, that's going to make my life a lot better. If I share vulnerably and that allows me to make deeper connections and have more interesting conversations, that serves me. If I'm able to tell my partner or my friend, hey, I'm struggling right now, and that releases pressure from me, takes a load off my shoulders, and allows them to see me, it allows me to feel really seen and really understood. Is that going to serve me? Yes, I think it will. I think that's going to make you feel a lot better. It's been huge for me in my life to take off some of these masks and armor and really let myself be fully seen. It's an incredible feeling to feel like I can be myself and be accepted. And so, the other hard truth here is that a lot of our dominant culture is still caught up in this kind of false message, right? That vulnerability is bad, feelings are weakness. And so this does require courage, right? Depending on what your friend group looks like, what your community looks like, what your workplace looks like, there are cases where you might be ridiculed for displaying vulnerability or displaying feelings. You might be made fun of. You might be laughed at. You might not get the kind of response that you deserve, the kind of loving, compassionate response. So I really want to validate that I'm not claiming that displaying vulnerability and feelings is easy. But it can also be a sign that if your friends are the type of people who would laugh at someone for admitting that they're lonely or scared, Is that the kind of friend that you want? Or do you deserve better? Right? And I think Brene Brown talks about how the opposite of belonging is fitting in. Because true belonging is the feeling that people love me for who I actually am. Fitting in is pretending to be something that you're not, to get fake belonging. And you might convince yourself that that's the best you can do, or that feels good. But I guarantee it's going to feel so much better to get real belonging. And real belonging is not possible unless you're courageous enough to show your true self. And then that self is accepted and loved. Then that's where you get true belonging. But you have to find the right people, the right community, where you do belong, right? And so if you feel like your current environment, it's not safe to reveal your feelings, then keep searching. Go to other meetups. Go to other, spiritual groups. Go to other workshops, conferences, whatever it is. Try out different communities. Try out different types of people to find a place where you actually can display vulnerability and can display emotions, and they will be accepted and cherished, right? Because I think that's what a really mature person looks like. Someone who is capable of going really deep. That's what a strong, mature person looks like, is someone who accepts your and values truth, you displaying who you actually are instead of having to hide it. And you deserve that. We all deserve to be able to really be ourselves and be real with each other. And I guarantee if you can find a community like that, if you can find friends like that, your life is going to feel so much richer. You deserve it. So don't settle. Keep looking. So practically speaking, you can think of this as testing the waters, right? You're kind of throwing something out there to see how do they respond. What kind of person are they? What kind of conversation are they in the mood for? Are they willing to show up for? So one question I really love for this is to ask someone, what's something that's been on your mind a lot lately? Or if you're feeling even more courageous, what's something that's been on your mind or heart a lot lately? And that gives them a very wide range in which they could respond. They could bring up something happening at work, something happening, the weather, sports, or they could bring up something deeper like, wow, I've really been thinking a lot about death lately, or my parents are aging, and I've really been thinking about what's going to happen to them, or I've been struggling in my relationship, or I've actually been a little depressed lately. Right? You give them the opportunity to answer in many different ways. And then depending on how they answer, that can inform how trustworthy do they feel, how much do I think they can hold my emotions. And this can really be a function of small talk. When you start the conversation, if they are just talking about boring surface level things, you can kind of throw out your fishing pole with an interesting lure and see if they bite. Right? So you can admit something small like, yeah, actually, I've been feeling a little anxious lately. And see how they respond. You're not, divulging this huge emotional thing. You're just mentioning a small little anxiety. And see if they just kind of gloss over it, or if they ask you a question about it, or if they share something about their anxiety, right? That might be your cue that they're willing to go deeper. And that's what a lot of the art of conversation is. You kind of throw out a little thing and see if they bite. It's like a game of tennis. You kind of hit a certain type of shot and see how they hit it back.